Is Wo-Chien good now? Since the introduction of the Ruinous Quartet, Wo-Chien has always been viewed as the weakest link. When you compare it to the other three Ruinous Pokemon, it's simply outclassed. It's the only one of the four that didn't bring anything new to the table. Chien Power lowers the opponent's defensive stat with Sword of Ruin. This is the first ability we've ever had that lowers the opponent's defensive stat. We have also never seen abilities that lower the opponent's special stat like Chiyu's Beads of Ruin and Tinglu's Vessel of Ruin. But we have seen an ability that lowers the opponent's attack stat, similar to what Wo-Chien's Tablets of Ruin does. And of course, that's the old staple, Intimidate. And of the Ruinous Quartet, it is the least unique because of this. When you factor in their typings, Wo-Chien once again drew the short end of the stick, as Grass Dark on a defensive Pokemon is pretty awful. It has 7 weaknesses, some of which are the most common offensive types in the format, being Fighting, Fairy, and Fire. Now, it does have a decent resist pool, as 6 resistances and 1 immunity is pretty good, but having the most weaknesses of the group is never a good thing. Because of this, it has seen minimal play. Now, going back to its typing, there was some competition also added in Generation 9, being Meowscarada and Brubonnet, which are both far better offensive Pokemon. Meaning the poor defensive typing isn't that crippling, and Meowscarada was one of the best Pokemon in the game back in Regulation A, being the most used Pokemon in that format. And while Brubonnet hasn't seen too much success, it is still quite bulky, has access to moves like Spore and Rage Powder, and can deal a lot of damage, especially in the sun. But with the introduction of the restricted Pokemon in Regulation G, Wo-Chien is finally trending up, and it just got some pretty decent results at NAIC. So now the question is, why is Wo-Chien getting better as the formats introduce more powerful Pokemon? Well, let's start off by looking at its kit. To start with, being a Dark type right now has a lot of benefits. We've seen some teams even run 4 Dark types, as Pokemon like Calyrex-Shadow are incredibly strong right now, and there isn't too many offensive Fairy types running around, as Flyterman has seen a big drop off in usage. And being a Grass type in the current format helps a lot, as it has immunities to both Spore and Rage Powder. And the combination of the Grass and Dark typing is also pretty good into the 4 top non-restricted Pokemon, as you're able to resist a majority of the stab moves. The most used Pokemon so far in Regulation G has been Incineroar. And as we said earlier, Intimidate functions quite similar to Tablets of Ruin, as its purpose is to lower the opponent's attack stat. And because of this, the item Clear Amulet has become incredibly popular on a lot of the top restricted Pokemon, like Calyrex-Ice and Koraidon. Because of this, Tablets of Ruin inherently becomes a lot better, as it doesn't get blocked by any items or abilities. Besides Wheezing, but let's be honest, that's pretty fictional at the moment. It also works against Pokemon like Urshifu, lowering the power of its critical attacks. Another cool benefit as well is that it doesn't affect its own foul play's damage, as it does bypass the attack drop from Tablets of Ruin, and because of this, it can deal a lot of damage to both the Calyrex forms. Another big reason why Tablets of Ruin has a lot of potential in the restricted format is because the larger the number, the harder it falls. You see, Calyrex-Ice has a max attack stat of 238. When Tablets of Ruin is active, it drops it down to 178 attack, which, funny enough, is the same amount of damage an Adamant max attack Meowscarada can do, which honestly doesn't seem too bad until you realize Calyrex-Ice has a base attack stat of 165 and Meowscarada only has 110, which is a huge difference, especially when Pokemon like Calyrex rely on picking up KOs to snowball the game, so missing a crucial KO can be the difference between winning and losing. Wo-Chien also has great staying power in the current metagame too. With powerful allies, it's more likely to get turns on the board where it's ignored, as it's not as big a threat as some of the restricted legendary Pokemon. And with access to Leech Seed, Leftovers, and Protect, Wo-Chien can stay on the board for a very long time, healing itself up constantly. And it can also force some Pokemon to switch out, as they don't want to let Wo-Chien constantly sit there and heal back all the damage dealt to it. Now, there is a specific restricted partner Pokemon that is really enabling Wo-Chien to shine. A Pokemon that has a pretty decent matchup into most of the metagame. And that's the Thunder from Down Under, the Lord of the Primordial Sea, Kyogre. On the surface, we can see some inherent synergy. Wo-Chien is a Grass type. Grass doesn't like fire. Kyogre is a Water type that sets up the rain, halving fire damage. Kyogre, being a Water type, also has 2 weaknesses, Grass and Electric. Wo-Chien, being a Grass type, resists both of them. Kyogre, also being a Water type, covers for Wo-Chien's Ice weakness. But then, it goes a little deeper. You see, Kyogre is very bulky on the special side of things, but its physical defense for a restricted Pokemon is pretty subpar. And that's why one of the best partners for it has always been Incineroar, as Intimidate helps to fix this weakness. And what's one thing every VGC player loves? It's a cheeky little Firewater Grass core. And when your restricted Pokemon is a Water type that has issues in the physical defense department, having a Fire type and a Grass type that can both lower the opponent's attack stat can go a long way for keeping your Kyogre alive. But then it goes even deeper. What is Kyogre known for? The answer? Kyogre deals massive damage with rain boosted stab water spouts. And what's one of the best ways to lower the damage output of Water Spout? It's lowering Kyogre's HP. See, decreasing the amount of damage Water Spout can do can be really crippling for Kyogre teams, as normally it's one of the only main damage dealers on the team. And we've already spoken about how Wo-Chien's ability can help mitigate the damage Kyogre takes, but then we have to factor in one other thing. They have pretty similar speed tiers. And Wo-Chien has access to a little known move called Polen Puff. And when you use this move on an ally Pokemon, it restores 50% of their max HP. Meaning that if you speed creep your Kyogre by 1 point, you can effectively spam side Polen Puffs, helping to get off powerful Water Spouts most turns. And speaking of 50% health, the Ruinous Quartet also have access to a move called Ruination. This move cuts the opponent's current HP stat in half, meaning if you feel safe with your Kyogre on the board, you can launch up a Ruination into a Pokemon that resists your Water Spout, something like this stupid little mushroom, then fire off a powerful Water Spout in the rain. And to be honest, I don't know if there's a single Pokemon in the game that doesn't have an immunity to this that can take a full power Water Spout from half HP. Now, I just want to give a shout out to the two mad lads who really showed off this Pokemon's potential, that being Tang Shalang, who got top 8 at the North American International Championships, and honestly, if his Kyogre and Wo-Chien didn't decide to miss 3 moves on Pat's Calyrex-Ice in Game 2, who knows what could have happened. Potentially, Tang could have gone the whole way and won the event. And of course, Wo-Chien's strongest soldier, Moxie Boosted, who plays top 64 with a record of 10-5. Now, I won't be breaking down their teams here, as I already did that in a previous video, but the combination of Assault vs Kyogre with the support duo of Incineroar and Wo-Chien has proven that it's a real archetype that has a real chance to make a splash at the 2024 World Championships. And maybe, just maybe, Wo-Chien can finally beat the mid allegations and become a world champion.